Hey, my name is Merjan Sadar. I'm a freelance journalist, and we're out here standing in front of Target on East Lake Street in South Minneapolis, right across the street from where the 3rd Precinct police station burnt down after George Floyd was murdered. In the last few years, I wrote a 12-part investigative series about Target Corporation's surveillance collaborative with Minneapolis police. There's been a call for a national boycott against Target for cutting its DEI program. And I think this is a great opportunity for activists to expand those demands rather than saying it's all right to shop again at Target once it relaunches its DEI programs, and it's okay for Target to go back to business as usual. I think people ought to know all the harm that Target has committed against our communities, especially the black community in Minneapolis and throughout cities across the U.S., and understand that cutting DEI is really one of the least harmful things Target has done to our community. You can see right there, there's police, Minneapolis police, pulling away. They were sitting in the parking lot here. As you can see, there's a row of surveillance cameras. You see a surveillance camera right there in the helicopter on this mirror on the wall, which perfectly illustrates Target's surveillance, their massive surveillance project that launched here in downtown Minneapolis over 2 decades ago and expanded throughout more than 24 cities across the U.S. Started here with the project called the Safe Zone, which was essentially, it was Target funding the Minneapolis police, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, the City Attorney's Office, to aggressively go after vulnerable street populations. Target trained Minneapolis police to aggressively go after panhandlers. They funded the County Attorney's Office to lock away and banish low-level offenders from downtown Minneapolis who they felt were bad for business.
So how did Safe Zone work exactly? So they had like a network of surveillance cameras?
So it began in 2004. Target donated a network of surveillance cameras to downtown Minneapolis. It opened up a crime lab here in the Twin Cities, and it opened its crime lab up to law enforcement to access for free. Target did, yep. And it was one of the most elite crime labs in the world. And so its crime lab was actually more sophisticated than local and state crime labs here in Minnesota. And it opened it up to not just local law enforcement, but also the FBI, the CIA, NSA, Department of Homeland Security, ICE. And so Target partners with federal, state, and local law enforcement officials regularly and frequently.
And just to be clear, I just want to make sure, so they're surveilling people outside of Target, right? It's not just people shoplifting. It's like they're watching the streets in the surrounding area in downtown Minneapolis.
Absolutely, yep. So it's not just shoplifters inside. It's actually the communities where Target is doing business. And so, again, this surveillance apparatus, it started in downtown Minneapolis, and then it expanded throughout the city, and it expanded throughout cities across the U.S. So Target is a frequent partner with law enforcement officials to surveil our communities, specifically black youth, specifically homeless populations, vulnerable populations that need support. Rather than incarceration. Target funded the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the City Attorney's Office to go after a list of what they call the top 100 offenders in downtown Minneapolis. The list is called the Downtown 100. And what it ended up doing was it ended up creating basically a banishment list where they banished people from downtown Minneapolis. They call it the geo-restriction list, geographically restricted list. More than 3/4 were black, another 10% were Native American, and almost everybody on this list were people of color.
So this is a corporation saying that certain individuals are not allowed in parts of the city.
Exactly. Yep. And so people need to know that, you know, Target works closely not with just law enforcement, local officials, but government itself. Target funds government, and many of us see this, you know, the government, the Trump administration rolling back DEI practices, but in reality, you know, we got to understand these corporations are at the top, you know, so it's these corporations that are telling the government to pull back these programs, not vice versa, right? One thing I want people to take away from my reporting on Target is that there's really no daylight between Target and our government. There's no daylight between Target and our law enforcement officials. And you know, there's a couple quotes that I found when I was researching the Safe Zone surveillance program. One was from a Target executive who said that he said Target is really a high-tech surveillance company masquerading as a retailer, and I thought that was a moment where, you know, they were very intentionally saying the quiet part out loud. There's another executive who was quoted in the press saying that Target's most important asset is its data analytics on its guests, not the retail products in its stores, and it's more than 2,000 stores nationwide, but the data analytics on its guests. And so we got to understand, Target is a mass surveillance company, a big data company. It has dossiers on anybody and everybody that steps foot inside Target stores, including your children. And it collects these files, and it adds information from online shoppers. I mean, it compiles all this information, including, you know, the surveillance cameras that take pictures of your cars in the parking lot, your license plate numbers. Target knows a lot about you.
So this is during a time too where they're like data, TikTok is a big part of the conversation. I gotta close it out. If there's any one last thing you just wish people could hear that's been on your mind, or it could be about anything, or it could be about this, what would it be?
You know, I think the main thing that I want people to know is that, you know, Target has helped incarcerate countless innocent black children. One of them, I think a really important name that I want people to know is Mahdi Ali, who was wrongfully convicted of a triple homicide. He was 15 years old. He was a student in Minneapolis public schools, and he was snatched from his family and his community for crimes that he didn't commit. And Target testified in court to frame this kid. Target, the Minneapolis police, and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office worked intensely to frame an innocent kid for a triple homicide that he did not commit. He is provably innocent, and I did a deep dive investigation into his story, again published by Unicorn Riot, and I want people to know about his case. And again, this boycott is an opportunity to not just relaunch DEI, but to call an end to Target's partnership with police and prosecutors across the country and free people like Mahdi Ali.
Thank you very much.